All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another good episode of Four Good Brothers. I am Stefan. I got my guy Kev, Fred, and Lavelle. And just real quick, last time we talked about respect, our loyalty, and I know we had a good conversation about it. Hopefully you all took that and had a nice good conversation about it. We're gonna get right into it today, and we're gonna start as we always start. So Kev, what's the out the box topic for today?
All right, hopefully this don't get us too spiraled out of control. So my out of the box question today is, when you die, what do you want to be remembered for the most?
That was deep. That was deep. I like the spiral. So here we go. Fred, I'm gonna start over there. I'm gonna start over there with you, so I feel like you and Kev have had this conversation before.
We have. So yeah, man. When I die, what do I want to be remembered for? It would be easy to say like my musical gifts or ministry talent, ministry things like that. But really, genuinely being a good guy, I think I've been misunderstood for a long time. But I guess that's natural. Most people are misunderstood because most people talk on a surface level. As I've said before, we don't go below the surface to talk about the things that are more in depth to get a better understanding. So I really, when I die, I just really want to be remembered for just being a good guy, constantly being loyal, faithful to those things that deserve that kind of commitment, or the things that that I my beliefs, being a man of God, but being a straightforward guy, a straight shooter.
I like it. Mr. Question Maker.
Well, pretty soon it'll be the audience questions. So I think for me, and you're right, Fred, and I've had this conversation before. If you would have asked me 8 years ago, it would have been a different answer. To me, success, your legacy, isn't determined necessarily by the amount of money that you've made, but it's by the lives you touch. And the ultimate life for me is my daughter. I'm always open to constructive criticism. I'm flawed just like everybody else. But the ultimate compliment, the thing that I want to be remembered for the most is Kevin was a good father. And I think that translates and says a bunch of different things. Being a good father, being a good man, being rooted in love and transcendent love. That's what I would like to be remembered for the most.
I like it, and you alley-oop me real nice, because
That's
I think
what I do.
I think that for me, I would like to be remembered most by the lives that I impacted, and that I impacted in a positive way. So it's one of those things that people say I'll always live on, no matter what, based off of that.
Yeah.
Being a father as well, and not to negate what you said, but I don't want it to stop at my son, because I think that personally, my personal opinion is I think that's some of the problems in the world, is that we stop within our box.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot more. It's crazy that we had this conversation with, kind of sharing with you today, we had this conversation with my son today. It's so much more that we spread it, that love, that knowledge, outside of our four walls or outside of our circle, how much things would be different. And I think that really leads your legacy on, where to a point where, kind of like how you talk about your grandparents, you never really, in a sense, die if that continues on.
Yeah.
So it's really what I can do through others, and maybe people having this conversation that because of my influence with Stefan, I do this X ways, and it should be in a positive way.
So that would be considered legacy then.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's a domino effect. It's historically proven psychologically proven, it only takes one positive adult to change the trajectory of a kid's life. And why not that be you?
You're up.
Man, well said, brother. Well said. Well, I want you to know.
I thought a hymn was coming.
I was gonna sing.
I felt the hymn coming on.
But I chose not to. No, I think at the end of the day, I phrase it like this because I had a conversation recently. Maya Angelou said, "People will forget what you say. People will forget what you do, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And I think I want to make people, and I pray and hope that I have already in my life, made people feel good. I want them to feel something. Rather that was feeling good, feeling happy, feeling joyous, feeling the presence of God. I want people to know, man, I remember that moment when he made me feel. He made me feel like a better man, a better leader, a better father.
Yeah.
And for my child, I want that to know if she never realizes I've done anything else in her life, that I made her feel like she was the best daughter in this world. And that I lived the best life and I served faithfully of my faith.
Yeah.
I want that to be. And I lived the best for God.
You made us feel real good a couple weeks ago at church.
Amen.
There you go.
God bless you. Yeah.
All right. So that was out the box. So why don't you go ahead and put in the comments, what you think or what you want to be remembered, how you feel about our comments. Please feel free to disagree. We love when people disagree. Kind of opens up conversation. But today we are going to deal with forgiveness.
Yeah.
So how I want to start us off, I just want to start us off with one definition of forgiveness. It says psychologists generally define forgiveness as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance towards a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. So that is.
I want to preface to all my young men, old, middle-aged. This is not my strong suit. Forgiveness is not my strong suit. That doesn't mean that you have to do as I do, but more learn from what I didn't do. This is gonna be good today, so I look forward to it.
So that is the collegiate definition. Lavelle, can you give us some biblical definitions or examples of forgiveness? What thus says the Lord when it comes to forgiveness?
I mean, that is just pretty much almost biblical right there, too. In the same sense of forgiving. You look in the context of the Bible that God has forgiven us for our sins.
Right.
With Jesus dying on the cross, taking away that and forgiving us for the wrong that we have done. One of the famous scriptures we know is, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. It comes in that context of that definition of just simply realizing whether you deserve it or not, you forgive them in that context of what they have done, rather it hurt you, someone else, or someone you might know.
So I know biblically what that says. Lord, forgive them. They don't know what they do. What if they know what they do? Is that still worthy of forgiveness?
I think so. Personally, I think so. I think there is. See, now we already getting deep.
And now,
and
how many times do they have to do it?
So
So hold on.
Okay, yeah.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Because here how we're gonna have to work this forgiveness thing. So in your own, we're gonna go. I want the two of y'all to think about it while Lavelle's already talking. In your own definition, because we done got what the collegian people say. Lavelle's giving us some scripture to go along with it.
Mhm.
But Lavelle, in life application, what does forgiveness mean to you?
Ooh. Well, y'all, this is deep.
I'm ready if you're not ready.
No, I'm ready.
You ready? All right. I want you to be ready because I got questions.
I'm going to say this, and this is for anybody that might be struggling with forgiving someone. And I'm not even going to put this in a spiritual context. You have to be in a mature place. I'm just going to put it like that. You have to be in a mature place to be ready to forgive someone. And I have finally gotten to that stage in my life where I am in that mature place, where I already have forgiven some people that have done wrong towards me or towards some people I know and love. So with that being said, I think forgiving is...
And to clarify, is that spiritual maturity or is that fleshly maturity?
I'm going to say both. I'm going to say both.
Okay.
And I can go into that a little later, but let me just, both.
Because you see where this is going to be at for
Yes.
us, right?
But we going, let me
All right.
level set, because we're going to go into
Yeah.
how do you forgive later. But
Wait,
right
I'll
now,
go into that. When we do that, I'll go into it.
right now, we just want to know
So
what is
definition
forgiveness
is,
to
I
you?
think forgiveness is acknowledging the fact that someone has done wrong to you or someone that you know, and opening up your heart to apologize, even if they hadn't done it towards you, but your maturity to say, I'm sorry, or I forgive you for this thing that you've done, and I'm going to move on.
Yeah. So for me, the definition of forgiving is letting go, but it does not mean that I forgot.
Absolutely. I'm with you
But
100 times 100.
but I personally can let go. My biggest thing I like to always tell people is that a lot of times we don't realize is that we hold a grudge against somebody or some group of people who 9 times out of 10 have forgotten about
The whole thing.
the whole situation
Absolutely.
and have moved on with their life and what's going on. But I also believe you got to be spiritually and naturally mature enough to be able to forgive.
Yep.
So in a nutshell, the easiest way to say it is forgiveness. So we're gonna go to my buddy Freddie J, and then Kev, we're gonna end it. You get the last word on the definition of forgiveness.
Well, like Kev, it's a struggle. It's a huge struggle. I know we'll get into that down the line. But I would say that I would say that forgiveness is a I don't know if tool is the right word, or say I would look at it as a large tool bag with multiple tools in that bag to fix a lot of different things. Wherefore, just for me personally, I'm not trying to go into it, I'm just trying to explain why I see it that way. 42 years old now. I just recently had like I told y'all know, I had a sit down with my dad. And he answered every question that I had from a childhood that I didn't get in all previous years. And the way that I got to it was to validate him and letting him know that what I was asking him, I wasn't coming to beat down on him or to accuse him. I just needed his story. There were some care gaps in my thinking or in my memory that I couldn't piece together. There was pieces missing. So in order for me to get to this place to forgive my dad, like truly forgive my dad, I needed to change my attitude. So,
Hold on, I need you to put a pin right there because you're going into the next segment.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's kind of weird for me to.
So for you, what is the definition?
So I guess it would be maturity, man.
Maturity. I like it.
That like, yeah, but not all areas of my life have I matured. That's why I say it's a huge tool bag for most people.
Enough to be able to forgive.
Yeah.
So I,
Definition only.
yeah, it's a segue. It's following up. So when it comes to yeah. So when it comes to what
They taking up for each other.
Lavelle said, like it takes a level of maturity, and I question whether that's physical or spiritual. He says both. I think that forgiveness definitely takes a high level of spiritual maturity. I think if you're talking about physical maturity, I think that your life experiences and recognizing patterns of behavior that protect you is a level of maturity. So I think when it comes to spiritual maturity and forgiveness, that relates. I respectfully disagree with it being a level of physical maturity, because that's how your brain is wired to take shortcuts to protect you. One of those things may be avoiding people that have wronged you knowingly, and that leads to like a lack of forgiveness. So when we talk about, I see you now, and we'll get there. When we talk about like what's my definition of forgiveness, I do know that forgiveness does not mean forgetting. I know that for me. I think forgiveness, when you don't forgive someone, it's like drinking poison expecting for the other person to die. It doesn't make sense. So when I think about forgiveness, I think about it like I see you, I recognize historically your patterns of behavior. I can choose to deal with you in a way that I deem. I won't forget what you did, but for the sake of myself, because the forgiveness is for me, not for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at forgiveness as not being forgetting and doing it for my own sanity.
I have a question on the definition though. So, because I was thinking about when Kev just said that. So I said maturity, but then at the same time, the way you just said that, then I would say that forgiveness would also be because we know that when we looking at forgiveness, that forgiveness is about us and not the person.
Correct.
So then it's really, forgiveness will be self-love.
I get where you're going to a degree, because if you don't forgive, you will let them emotions and that stuff bottle up inside of you, will eat away at you. And it'll cause you more harm.
Yeah. So like, now we're dealing with mental health. I ain't jumping ahead. I'm just saying.
You on point. So I'm gonna hit one more thing, and then we gonna dive deep into the conversation.
Yeah, dive deep. Let's need some
So the next one I looked up. It says, "How do you truly forgive somebody?" And I think you was really hitting on these points. So acknowledgement of your emotions about the harm done to you and how they affected your behavior, and work to release them.
Yeah.
So you choose to forgive the person who has offended you. Move away from your role as the victim and release the control and power that the offending person and situation had on your life. I was already coming to you. So once again, that's academia talking.
Yeah.
This real life application.
Yeah.
You probably, from what I know, have had the most recent conversation and is dealing with forgiveness. So kind of pick up where you left off.
Yeah. So just off that to go into
that's a lot in there.
That to remove myself as the victim. No, I don't believe that. I respectfully disagree, because I am the victim. Because reality of it is, it's like, well, if somebody was to, it's like a person you're married and your significant other dies. You are the widow or the widower. or you get a divorce, you're a divorcee. Like, you can say, yeah, I'm single, but reality is that I went through a divorce, so I am a divorcee, right? So I'm always that. So, yeah, I disagree with that. Go ahead, you about to jump in, because I know.
I think that when you use the term victimization, it gives the other party too much power. Because even though I may forgive you, whatever that looks like for me, there's still a level of, and I guess if there's a level of resentment, it's not truly forgiveness, right? But I'm not going to give you additional power by making myself a victim or using that term.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That's something I was thinking about. I see where you at.
yeah,
where
I
you
mean,
going.
like,
I see where you're going. Let me throw something out there for you. So you use divorcee and being single. When they say stop being a victim, to me the first thing that comes to my head is that when do you stop looking at yourself as a divorcee so you can be single and move on with your life and maybe find somebody else
Right.
to help complete. That's when I look at victim.
No, I-
I look at it in
Or
that.
stop being my oppressor, and I'll stop being a victim.
Yes.
yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm simply saying, just on the surface level, that's what I'm saying I disagree with. Like, because it's just a bona fide fact. It is what it is,
Mhm.
right? Now, what is that? Y'all know, like it's my story, but it's not who I am, right?
Mhm.
So that's what I mean by, like, you're always, the victim, but or whatever it is. But I was saying earlier, like, that process for me, like dealing with my dad, I had to approach him in the sense of being mature, but speaking softly but direct as to what I needed. So, for instance, like I said, y'all know that we've talked about it before, but since this is the pod for this, I asked my dad, I said, well, why wasn't I good enough? It's not like I didn't have a relationship with him, but he wasn't involved the way he should have been involved, right? And he gave me his response. But I assured him before he gave me his response is that I wanted him to speak freely and that I wouldn't hold anything against him. So if he said, well, your mom, blah, 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 I wasn't going to be like, well, no, I'm like, no, because reality is that me showing up here was because of him and my mom and God. That had nothing to do with me. I didn't ask to be here. So if there's blanks or misses in my life, right, or gaps, who better or who's responsible for these gaps in this growing, right? So my way of that was to let him know that, hey, I want to validate what you say. So what you're saying is important to me, and I'm not going to disregard nothing you say. But just know that if you do say something, I may dig deeper. So if you give me something and then I ask to make that a little deeper to get to the root of that, I'm not coming at you crazy, I'm not striking at you, I'm not talking aggressively, it's a conversation. And when I told my dad that I just genuinely wanted to talk, that's where my forgiveness really came last Thursday with my dad. Is because it was some real tear-jerking moments, me and him both tearing up. And it was just like, I've never, not that my dad hasn't, well, yeah, I would say he's never been that transparent with me before. He came out of Reverend James mode to just being an old Petey. Right, and talking to his son. But he respected me as a man, though. And what I told him was, I said, it's like a bar mitzvah. And, like I said, in the Jewish community, the fathers or the grandfathers or the uncles validate that boy at a particular age. I'm like, there's some gaps with me that I don't think that I've gotten. And I need that because the confidence is low in certain aspects of my life where I know that I've messed up is because I didn't have the confidence or I wasn't sure about that. So those things I held against him, which was unforgiving. Those were things where I hadn't forgiven, So just my approach to him, that's why I say maturity, and then that's why I asked the question and said, well, it can be looked at as self-love, because if the forgiveness is about us, because it causes us more harm to hold on to it, like you said, I think it's that level, that maturity, but being able to soften your approach to them to figure out, getting them to talk, and then that allows that forgiveness to come.
So where you going, from what I'm hearing, and it comes back to the maturity level,
Yeah,
where it doesn't, you gotta be spiritually mature with them, we're saying basically earthly mature, or mentally mature enough to have the conversation. Because in both instances, what I heard was you really needed clarity from both of these two individuals in order for you to give them forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because the clarity had to come first.
You set that up perfect. Cause yep.
Sorry, but in the clarity though, the clarity cannot be aggressive.
That's where the maturity comes in.
Right.
Because
but I think that's what most people miss though. Because you can't talk in this.
But see, when you looking for, and that's where the other part where victim might have been the wrong word, that's when you have to have clarity within yourself and what you're looking for and know how to address the person on the other end. Because if you come off attacking or accusatory or being victimized, it's automatically, by human nature, it's going to put the other person on the defense.
Absolutely.
So that's why you have to have that mental clarity within yourself and be clear and concise and to the point of, this is sort of what I want to talk about.
I think it's good on the I statements though too, Kev. When we talk about that, it's like if I say, what did I do?
What did I do? It's accountability.
Or I felt this way when you did. It takes that. Go ahead.
I think that the true forgiveness comes spiritually. Not everybody is there. From a spiritually mature standpoint, when you talk about like the maturity in the way of like earthly way, that's being mature enough to be in a place where you're ready to have a conversation. Like it's never a good time to have a tough conversation. It's always good posture. So just like there's some people that have had a misconception and have lacked clarity in a situation for years, like since childhood.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to childhood trauma. The ability to have that conversation first is a level of maturity, and I don't think that level of maturity has anything to do with age. Bailey and I, like me and my daughter, when we have conversations about how to be expressive and using your expressive language, like how did that make you feel when I did this, when they did this? Oh, it made me X. So I think like some of that is teaching, but also I think on a deeper issue, then I'm gonna answer your question, or a deeper challenge is like how forgiveness looks differently in the Black community. Because when you talk about like being taught how to forgive, it's mostly biblical. Well, the Lord say that you gotta, I hear you, but as Black men, we're also not taught to deep dive into our emotions and to have those conversations that lead to forgiveness. When you did this, I felt mad. No. I felt neglected. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt disrespected that you did this.
Yeah.
So not letting everything be rooted in anger and be rooted in real emotions.
True.
Now, as far as like what it takes to truly forgive, we're probably asking the wrong person. I think for me, it starts with having a very harsh sense of reality. When I think about forgiveness, I first think about who I'm forgiving and what I think their offenses are. So when I think about the who I'm forgiving, it's like if these things that I deem as offenses to me are historically true, and other people can attest that they're historically true, I know I'm not tripping. And these are just patterns of behavior, and this is just who you are at your core. So when I think about it that way, it's like, yo, I forgive you. I'm not going to forget any of this stuff. That way, if it does turn its head again, I'm not surprised. Like, I don't want to be someone that I forgive to a flaw. Because I know people like that. And what happens to them, they continuously get broken down by the same person, and they have to build themselves back up every time. That doesn't seem
Let me ask you a
helpful.
question on that. When does that person start to take accountability? I got this saying with the females in my life. It's, I beat your boyfriend up once. He been street sweep with his hands on you, he do something out the way to you. I beat him up once. You choose to go back to him.
I ain't fighting no more.
Don't call me, because this is now. Just
Now this is a you problem.
We know
This is a you problem,
We know what this issue is right here, but you continue to go back to it. You know.
Why? Now, I think now we're asking the right question. Why does that person feel that is the route to forgiveness? It don't say nowhere biblically to smack my other cheek. Smack, turn the other cheek. When does it talk about getting smacked again? I don't recall. My thing is like, you have to be taught that. Young women, young men, like, no, you just forgive that person and you move on. That doesn't mean you have to operate in the same vein and continue to move on with that person.
But I think that, and Lavelle, I'll pass off to you. I think that move on is also move on from that person, move on from that situation, move on. Because going back to that person or going back to that situation, you staying stagnant or you're going backwards. And I like that. I want you to think about this when I'm gonna come.
Yeah, because we need to. If that's the case, we need to rethink about how we teach forgiveness.
Bingo. So let's
Agreed.
put a pin on
Yep.
that. You scratching your head.
I was just about to say, I think the teaching is just
So
not
what's it?
necessarily been wrong, but it's just been
Yeah,
off.
come on.
So what should that look like? How are you gonna make it personal? How are you gonna teach your daughter forgiveness?
My Lord, it's a good one. I have to go with almost the same concept of Kevin. It starts with having that conversation. You have to have those conversations on how did this make you feel? Here's the reason why I did this. Now there's a difference between being upset at something and discipline too. If my daughter touches the oven, when I have told you don't touch it, and I scream at her for it, that's not, I'm not asking for your forgiveness for this. I told you multiple times, there were levels to that. Hey honey, don't touch that oven, it's hot.
Yeah.
Honey, there's a reason why you can't touch this, okay? And then I tell you not to touch it. This is what happens. You're screaming because of the reaction, or you're crying because of the reaction of how I responded to that, when I told you not to. I'm not asking for your forgiveness for that. It is, go ahead.
I'm
pointing.
Both of y'all. I think that when we teach forgiveness, especially to our children, or to anyone we're mentoring, or to kids in the neighborhood, whoever you're teaching forgiveness to, there has to be an emphasis on who you're forgiving, because the same way I teach Bailey about forgiveness, I teach her in the vein of me. Like, hey, if daddy does something that hurts your feelings.
Exactly.
Because what happens is, when we teach forgiveness in a way that some people are completely off limits.
Yes.
Your dad, your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are off limits. Now you're 30 and you're a broken person, or you're 40 and you're a broken person, and you're still trying to figure out how to forgive your mom and your dad and these individuals that have wronged you. So I think you have to be realistic in teaching, like, people that you love the most are probably going to
Gonna hurt
disappoint
you.
you at some point
Yeah.
because your expectation is so high for those people.
And
And
that-
be real in that.
That's part of the teaching, though.
That's
part
what,
of
yeah,
the
I'm saying that has to be part of it.
the only standards and expectations I should have is for God, because everybody else is going to fall.
Fred got something.
Everybody
He
else is
did
going
the
to fail.
smack. Yeah.
So
Dang, that's where
it
it's
is.
at.
Yeah,
That's where
it's
it's
that
at.
you have to come with that point. When my daughter is able to comprehend what I am saying, she's a newborn right now. My baby's about to turn 1 real soon, y'all. But when she is able to finally understand things, I'm going to her mother and I are going to explain we are not perfect. We're going to do the best that we can to help you grow and succeed. But we are not perfect, and nobody else in this world is perfect.
So,
Step 1. Step 2, there's gonna be some people who's gonna do you wrong. Because here's another thing.
Yeah.
Daddy ain't gonna be able to save you with everything.
No.
I ain't gonna be here forever either.
Yep, because we're not in the age where we can protect kids anymore. You are preparing them for your death ultimately.
Correct.
Fred, hold on. So, Fred, I'm gonna ask you.
Wow.
Let me ask
Yeah,
you. Let
that's
me
facts.
ask you.
That was a strong statement, bro.
That's
You
right.
have to. If you don't teach.
I'm not against it, but
No,
I'm just saying that's
but
just.
he's absolutely right. And just not in this day and age. I think it should have been in every age. Parents should
But see, that's
teach their
so
kids
Hold on.
going to die one.
I'm sorry.
Now, he been trying to get in
No, no,
I'm
so
done,
go
I'm done
ahead.
now. I'm done
Go
now.
ahead.
No, y'all-
Before,
No, I'm
for the people in the back, since it was such a profound statement, I need you to repeat yourself.
For the people in the back. So, context, I think 60s, 70s, 80s, the mindset for parenting was, I'm going to protect my kids from the ills of the world. We live in a time now, maybe, we live in a time now where other things are so prominent, you can turn on a tablet or a phone and get everything that are the ills of the world and things that are happening. We're not protecting our kids anymore. We're preparing them. And we're preparing them for when we're not there. So we're not protecting our kids anymore. We're preparing them for our death and for them to be independent, sustaining adults.
Yeah.
No?
No, I'm with you.
Oh, okay.
It's,
I think there's still a balance though.
Yes,
Still
it's so many levels to it because where we're at now, I'm just jumping out. I'm sorry, Stefan. I'm just gonna jump out there. I'm sorry, son.
He apologized to you first, so that helps. It's like, no disrespect, but
we're in this age, man, where there's movements for every damn thing. Everything. So if the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, right? That's what you said. We need to go back to the 50s. Let's think about the times. Slavery times, right? So in those times, you know, people coming through the Underground Railroad, whatever, all that, blah, 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 be moving forward. You got the, what do we call it? I always mess that up all the time when they're doing the Civil Rights Movement, all those things. So people, or we're looking at Oklahoma, when that's Tulsa, right?
Mhm.
When they
Black Wall Street.
Black Wall Street, they burn all that down. People are naturally trying to protect their children based off fear of past things that have happened. So I agree with you. I never disagreed on any of that. I'm simply saying now it's not that way because everything is watered down. Everybody has to have their feelings to be met when you're a natural human being. That's why I go back to what you said. It's like the only reverence that I really should have. So how I live my life is I'm not a respecter of anybody except God. Anybody can get it. Because
and also respect is earned.
yeah, like at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? It's like you harmed me. Now, according to the word of God, because I'm a man of God, right? It's my duty for real of God to forgive you. But I understand that's for my benefit. But God didn't say nowhere unless I'm stupid. And I could be, I don't know.
I don't think you missed it.
But there's nowhere that it says that what you did to me does not have the I don't have the right to speak that up and for it to be validated that you were wrong. What people don't want to do is you can't have a conversation with them, and it's hard to even get to forgiveness. This is why it takes a supreme level of spiritual guidance or a connection with God to even get to that point. That's why I say for me, when it came to my dad, I've been chilling around my dad all this time, but there was still always some things that was prickling in the back of my head, like, yeah, bro, you didn't come to no baseball game, you didn't come to no music recitals, you didn't do none of that, right? But I've been connected to the vine this whole time. So the level, that's why it's all connected. So when you said there's a level of spiritual maturity, then there's the fleshly maturity, right? The fleshly maturity of me says, at the end of the day, which is still connected to the word of God, honor thy mother and thy father, that days might be long upon the earth. See, I got that, right? So because I got that already, that's in my head, it's in my heart, it's in my spirit, right? But I'm still human too.
Yeah.
So therefore, I can take that, respect that, and then come at you and still say, you was out of pocket though.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's
You
okay.
understand? So it's a combination of those things, but because the way our world is set up now, it's hard to even get to that. It's a struggle to get to the point of to forgive a person, even if you got those tools. Like you said, it's because if you continue to be my oppressor, how do I forgive you? Because everybody does not feel like they should be, like the person who's the oppressor, they like, well, I don't need to acknowledge the fact that I did you wrong. Because watch this, hindsight, they may not even realize that they're wrong. Because 9 times out of 10, it's like if we deal with, and I'm going elsewhere with that. But if you look at a person who's racist, 9 times out of 10, they don't even know why they racist. It was taught to
It's a
them.
condition. It's
right?
conditioned.
It's a learned behavior, right? So
But
if
that's
there's
why
no
we-
conversation,
Exactly. That's why
if
you
there's
need
no
to have a
conversation, none of that's happening. Why was Jesus able to forgive Lucifer or Judas at the table? Pastor just talked about that Sunday. Why was he knew that he said, one of you are gonna betray me.
Yes.
He said, but I'm still gonna set the table out for you. Here is your wine, your bread, whatever else was on that
See,
table.
and that's why he's Jesus, because if I know you're going to betray me, you ain't eating.
But see, that's the maturity. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's the maturity.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, so I think my discrepancy in what and where I get challenged on a lot is I witness people who have high levels of spiritual maturity, but don't have the earthly maturity. So you're forgiving people just to forgive them, but you're not having a conversation.
So I
That's what I'm
would
saying.
say on that
when
one, you
when
put them on a pedestal.
when are you going to tell that person why they wronged you or why you feel wronged? To say, oh, well, I'm not going to get to heaven, Karen. I understand all that. I'm saying to have a conversation. That person needs to know how you feel.
Because
and you just walking around forgiving somebody.
But what if those?
But you're not having a conversation.
What if those people already did?
Then you need to have a conversation with them at their gravesite.
And how do you not?
They don't talk back though, bro.
That's cool. Because it's for you and they for you.
But
They
see,
don't.
I'm not knocking
You know what I'm
it.
saying?
I'm not knocking it.
I get where you're going, but see, here's the thing, and then me and you kind of talked about this when you talked about briefly last time, and you hit on it a little bit. If the person that you are trying to get forgiveness from is not prepared for the conversation, because we already established, you got to be mentally mature, and you got to be spiritually mature to be able to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But if going into the conversation, I know Kev is not. One of these two places that I understand you got to be both of these to be able to have a conversation.
Right.
I know you're not there. Then I may just have to go in, have the conversation with you. You may never get the forgiveness. I did this, I did that. But when it comes back to, like the definition said, and what you can lead with, the forgiveness is for you.
Yeah.
Basically, part of forgiveness also is the phrase that I just had to get this off my chest.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't have to acknowledge it at all. This for me.
Now that I put it, but
I'm saying people ain't even having the conversation.
but this is what my wife told me about my father. We had the conversation. It went however the conversation went, But then we just quit speaking. Probably for 2.5 to 3 years. The conversation went him saying happy birthday, me saying thank you. You go back to the text string for probably about 2.5, 3 years, that's all it was. Like I told y'all before, I'm looking for a rental property in this neighborhood. She talking about some, let's stop by their house. I'm like, for what? She said, you forgave them, we're in the neighborhood, supposedly, so the right thing to do would be, let's stop by the house. If y'all was on good terms and we were in the neighborhood, would you stop by the house? So this whole time, I'm thinking that I forgave in this situation, but there had to be something still there because I was still on the screw you situation because I didn't get what I thought I should have got. Part of the thing with forgiveness is that we're looking for what we want out of the situation.
That's it right there.
And
So if I forgive you, I gotta be cordial too?
No. He's
No, that's not what he's saying.
saying.
But he was saying to the point of, it's like for instance, I told you when me and Daddy talked the other day,
Mhm.
I said, and I started tearing up, and I apologized to him as I was asking the question, because it hit me. I said, Daddy, I'm sorry. And he was like, no, you're good. I said, no, because I said, you probably have already apologized to me multiple times, but because I thought it was supposed to come in a particular, the way I wanted it to come, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't acknowledge your acknowledgement of me, how I was feeling, right?
Mm. So
And
like
I said,
apologizing in his own way?
yeah,
Right.
he apologized, but then I also had to consider, did I ever truly ask the question? Because I realized I didn't. See, the question to my dad this past week was, why wasn't I good enough? Which led to, well, what do you mean? Well, you didn't come to my games, you didn't come to my music recitals, my choir recitals, piano recitals, none of that. But look at it. You was at my brother's and my sister's deal. And then that's when he opened it all the way up. And I was just like, okay, I never asked that question. So I did, like you said, the conversation, I never asked the right question to get to the root. Hey, Dad, why wasn't I good enough? What do you mean? What do you mean you wasn't good enough? You never not been good enough. Well, this is how I equate not being good enough. And then somehow that was residue that moved into years down the line, I get married, and there's no disrespect to my ex or none of that. But when we get into an argument and she shuts down, I feel rejection. So I said, oh, I know what this feels like. I don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna shut down first. I'm gonna go to the softball park and go play ball all night. And when I come home, if you sleep, you just so happen to be asleep. I disregard validating her, right? And then this is all I felt. Not tonight. And I was, oh, this rejection. Oh, I'm going to the softball park tomorrow.
So now I'm not good enough again.
Yeah, I'm not good enough.
High level takeaway from that for me is that forgiveness is for you, but the conversation has to be transparency on both parties. So I think that when you have that conversation, a lot of clarity is provided. I've had that same forgiveness conversation with my dad.
Now, watch this. Now you know as well as I know, talk about that a lot of times the person, even if you try to validate them, they may BS you anyway.
Yeah.
So you've got to be, so then here goes the spiritual. See, that's why you on the money with it, because that's really where it's coming from. Like, let me say it, you say it, because I know I'm going to say it wrong. I know the scripture, but I always quote it wrong all the time. I'm licensed minister, y'all. I want that to be said. I do know the word of God. But be in this world, but I'm paraphrasing now.
Yeah.
Be in this world, but not of this world. So that falls in the line of spiritually being connected with God first and foremost, but not falling subject to disregarding on an earthly level that person that they hurt your feelings, but did you even consider what you did. There is an action and a response to everything.
So,
That's what I'm saying.
so accountability
Yep.
on your part.
Yep.
And for the sake of time, because we got to get ready to start wrapping this up, I want to hit us with something else. So, 5 steps to forgiveness, and you kind of hit on some of them. Reflecting on the situation. One thing that I don't think that we do enough, and it puts, I try to teach my wife and my son this, because this is one of the things that somehow I found myself being good at, putting yourself in the other person's shoes, because it gives you a different reflection. Here's the key for me in all of this. Here's the major key. You got to choose to learn from the experience, which I also agree with. Let it go. We talked about that one. Decide where you want to go from here. Because some people just hold on to stuff and don't even know where they want to go from it, where they want to go from it or with it. And the other thing is that once you really get deep rooted in this, is that you got to start a relationship with an experienced, exceptional counselor, because you're not going to be able to hash all this stuff out in your head by yourself.
Right.
You know, like we kind of talked about with this podcast, is it's a jumping off point for you to have a conversation. If you're going through any of the things that we talked about, find somebody you can trust,
Yeah.
hopefully a group of people like we got right here, or go to an experienced counselor. So those were kind of the steps.
I think everybody should whether you think you're a hurt person or not, everybody should have some sort of counseling, and it should be built into your health insurance. So from a policy standpoint, from a cultural standpoint, especially for us, we know how the black community feels about mental behavioral health and the stigma around it. Nah, get those services. Like it's important. It should be like a mandated thing.
Well, my question, I know you was wrapping this up, but my question is piggyback on what you just said. Why is that, man? Like I mean, I'm not dumb. I'm like, I get past things that as a people that we've been through, but it's not necessarily just African American people. Caucasian people who have been through.
There's a lot.
You know what
of
I'm
people,
saying? Indians.
we stereotype it because that's where we come from, but
Yeah. But
people
I'm like,
just don't believe. And the other part about this,
You want to keep family stuff in house.
you want to keep family
Right.
stuff in the house. But here's the other part about it.
Also, I think that's a byproduct of slavery.
So hold on. Here's
That's
the part,
another thing.
Here's a part that
Hold on.
people. Here's a part that people miss. It's financial, like you said. Historically, wealthy people go to counseling. You talk to your wealthy friends. It is nothing to go to counseling. Some of them, I go to the same counselor my mama and my grandma went to. It's just like the family doctor. The counselor is in the Rolodex. You hit a certain age in some of these wealthy communities, you just start going to counseling.
It's disparity in health, just like other areas in healthcare.
So that's what it is. But we're gonna hold that one. That's a good one. That's a good one for a different pod. What, Fred, are your closing comments on today? Definition of forgiveness.
Man.
We just kind of went over some steps of forgiveness. Just overall today, what do you think? What's your closing? You got like 30 seconds.
well, I would say first and foremost, man, internally, dig inside yourself. Be willing to, what you want to ask a person for, be willing to offer it yourself. But first, offer it to yourself. So that was big. That was big for me. Whether it was my divorce, my relationship with my dad, one of my relationships with one of my best friends, I had to be willing to go through the fire for myself and realize that I needed to be solid in my own thinking and in my heart before I went to them. And I think, unless they say otherwise, I mean, I've done that within the last, when did we go to Gatlinburg? Wasn't even 6 months ago.
Right.
So I've made all 3 of those moves.
Beautiful.
Gatlinburg episode coming soon.
Yeah.
Lavelle, you up? Takeaway. What's the last takeaway? You got 30 seconds, man. You down to 25.
I think everything has been said. You gotta be in a mature place.
Mature place. Kev, you up?
Couple high level takeaways. Forgiveness is for you, not for the other person. Also, if you're going to start your journey to forgiveness, doesn't mean you necessarily have to forget, but you are going to have the mental capacity to have tough conversations.
Yeah.
When you start that road to forgiveness and you have a conversation with that other person about what you deem as offenses, you got to be ready for what they're going to say. And it was something else. Bring it back, Stefan. Takeaways, forgiveness. I'm tapping you because it's helping to come back.
Go ahead. Let's come back.
Ready to have a transparent conversation? Yes, because people avoid crisis situations and crisis conversations. That's when you do the most learning. So you got to embrace that.
You gotta embrace the learning.
Can I say one more thing?
There you go. You get
I
kind
got
of
one more thing. I'm sorry. Don't ever think that you can't forgive a person. That's all I gotta say.
That's all you got to say.
I can go into it, but
That's
I
amazing.
like-
Stephon
I
can
like-
eat on
I
that one.
like these alley-oops. I like these alley-oops.
I can go in, but we ain't got the time.
if y'all think that this was deep, we're gonna get real serious next time. So, what is unforgivable? And we'll see y'all next time on 4.
I ain't coming for that episode.
God bless you.